Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A little bit of a later start today as I was hoping that something would happen since we last spoke yesterday. So with that said, today's going to be a little bit more of the same old on the short and medium term timeframes. However, we can focus a little bit more on the high term timeframes, as I suppose there's a few interesting things going on right there. Of course, we do have a major event coming in on Wednesday the 14th. That is Coinbase direct listing, which probably does propel a little bit of at least short-term action. And with that said, I would like to wish you a happy and healthy start to this day, of which I could use one myself, as I'm actually starting to feel a lot better, but still a little bit under the weather anyways. So with that said, let's put the folks now on the Krown Chain application. By the way, it can be found at app.krowngene.net. There is a link in the description below. You can join at any old time that you do desire, and it's 100% free as well. Anyways, a couple things here sticking out, and actually we do see a bit of a change of behavior, especially on Bitcoin dominance, heading down another 0.5%. So continuing with the downside motion here, which does play into our long-term narrative that as of like, what was it, a week or two ago, we did see a continuation drive, meaning that this is going to likely continue for a little bit more time. And of course, as long as Bitcoin is more or less ranging, meaning that it's below its prior time high at about $62,000, that is, well, going to be more or less the name of the game as altcoins do gain their value versus Bitcoin's Satoshi parents. With that said, not going to be the same thing on the whole, and I would actually strongly suggest that if you are trading altcoins, which I do not myself, that it would be a really good idea to actually look at the chart of yours, as we don't really see the whole market moving together. What we see is a bifurcated market, not even a bifurcated market, it's more like trifurcated, and it's more like getting defecated on. No, more importantly with that, what I would say is that we are seeing rotations, and so the strong altcoins, ones that's been kind of, obviously holding their long-term uptrends, they're going to be the ones that are most likely to really be operating incredibly well during these sorts of times where Bitcoin's, essentially in a lullaby, giving everyone a false sense of boringness. Yes. Anyways, with that said, everything else is very similar from what we saw from yesterday to today. Fear and greed index up to a 76. I think we were down to like a 70 or 71 yesterday. This is alongside Bitcoin really not doing all that much. Yeah, there was a little bit of a short-term sell-off in the overnight hours, looks like, as I do wake up. And I would still not say that even breaks the short-term time frame range, so it doesn't really mean all that much to myself. Anyways, on top of that, we see open interest pretty much the exact same area that we saw from yesterday. Not really much to make out of that, but we did see a new time high on open interest alongside Bitcoin price action testing the prior time high. Say long-term, that does essentially imply good things. And if we do go to the top 10 best coins, top 10 worst coins, there you go. Mr. XRP at the top of the list right there, 31 and a third on the day. Holy shit, man. Yeah, it's all the 2017 shit coins right here actually having themselves a really good last week, actually, led mostly by XRP, as you can see. On the other side, we see a lot more of the, well, I guess no, we see a lot of 2017 shit coins as well. Very interesting there. Again, that is what I'm talking about in a rotational market. Not everything is like having the best day of all time. Anyways, into the market data tab we go. Is there anything over here that I want to put a specific highlight on? A lot of people have been talking about this Bitcoin friendly rate per exchange. Holy shit, it is absolutely hilarious sometimes to see some of the theories behind this. First and foremost, I need to explain a few things here. Maybe we should even add it to this chart right here, although I'd hope that most people actually fucking know what the hell they're looking at for the most part when it comes to what exchange that you're trading on. But then again, fair enough. We're all lazy in some ways, and in this case right here, let me explain this. So for all the peer-to-peer exchanges right here, I'm talking about BitMEX, Bybit, Deribit, for example, the ones where essentially for every contract that is traded, there is both a buyer and a seller, meaning like actual traders, like actual peer-to-peer is what it's called, rather than like coming from a margin funding pool, which is more relevant to an exchange like Finex, for example, which is not listed here, by the way. And that is going to be a bit of a different interpretation. So what I mean by that is that when you're looking at the funding rate, it is populated on average, well, when I say on average, I mean all exchanges except for fucking one, to my knowledge, as far as these wild west crypto shit exchanges go, every 8 hours. So that means that it changes every 8 hours, meaning that for like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've definitely seen like this comment more than a few times from different people, and it's just like, it like blows my fucking mind. People will say something along the lines of like, leave a comment along the lines of like, Krown, the funny rate is every 8 hours, so you need to divide it by 3, and that's the real number. No, actually no. And you also should not multiply by 3 either, because it changes every fucking 8 hours. So look, when you're looking at like Bybit, for example, which has a funny rate right now of 0.08, in 8 hours, it's going to change, and it could change by any amount. There's no, well, I mean, there is a rhyme or reason for it, but it can change on a fucking dime. It could go negative in the next 8 hour period. So if we were to multiply by that by 3 to get the daily read, it's not going to be fucking accurate, which is the most important thing. On top of that, we do see that FTX is always an outlier. There is a reason for that. FTX funny rate, contrary to all the other major exchanges, changes every hour, in fact. And I don't know if we update it every hour. I think that we actually update it every 8 hours along with everything else. I'll have to speak with the developer, Mr. Mournfall himself, because I do think that that's something that we probably should change in order to get more accurate, as that is just, or perhaps what we're actually doing. And I haven't really spoken to him directly about this, because this really started to become like an obvious issue as of recently, when FTX was just, way the fuck out there. For the most part, as we've seen over like the last 3 to 4 months, it was pretty much always synonymous with all the other major exchanges. Anyways, as far as FTX goes, it could also be that, it's just taking the singular one and then multiplying by 8, and that's where you're getting like these crazy numbers here, which is just not really accurate. So what I would say for now, until we get this issue like completely fucking solved, I would actually just ignore FTX and go with all other, all other exchanges over that one, because FTX is just not consistent. Anyways, Deribit, Bybit, BitMEX, those are in Binance as well. Those are all the big ones that do the majority of the trading here, and all of those ones are actually around 0.1, that is. So they are, kind of creeping up towards the top side of that range, where it does start to be a little bit more of a consideration for people to be holding those long positions. And what I would say about that is that, again, coming into this next event that we have on April 14th, if you see it around this level, will that be a little more on the bear side? Yeah, it would be a little more on the bear side. However, there's something that's way more important right now that is an obvious signal, traditionally speaking, and that is your realized and also implied volatility, of which both are pretty fucking low here. What does that essentially imply? It essentially implies that Bitcoin is going through consolidation. And what is something that almost never happens? In fact, I actually don't think, that I've ever seen it, especially in Bitcoin land, I've never seen a reversal on extremely low implied volatility. I've seen continuation drives on extremely low implied volatility and realized vol as well. But what that implies, though, is that we're consolidating, and if consolidation is the name of the game, then typically speaking, that's going to be within the same vein as the prior trend. So I do look at the underlying market dynamics that's still being more or less bullish here, especially, well, I wouldn't say especially, but also with the fear and greed index kind of within the more optimistic zone, but not like incredibly optimistic, not above the 90 reads, which is where things really get crazy. And Bitcoin's like literally, just a couple $1,000 below its all-time high, which is nothing when you're talking about a $62,000 number right there. So with all of that said, I do still look at the underlying market dynamics as more or less healthy. And if this is the same sort of reads that we're going to be seeing like on, let's say, late Monday and of course Tuesday leading into that event, very likely I would look at this as a bit of a catalyst for price action. Now, of course, another day or two between here and now, a lot can happen. Obviously, those things can certainly shift on a dime, which is why I do say it's going to be really relevant, especially Tuesday. Monday, we should start to get a more clear picture of what's going on, and if all things go to plan, we will definitely do a live stream Monday. So with all of that said, should be a good setup with that. But again, putting all the puzzle pieces together, I would say that generally speaking, I'm going to be leaning towards the upside. If I'm going to err on one side, I'm going to err on the side of the trend. Anyways, with that said, we'll go over here to our secondary charts, and what do we see? We see, obviously, not only do we see a consolidation from an underlying market dynamic perspective, but we also see it from a Challenger perspective. Anytime these things squeeze on price action, that is your consolidation. And again, I'm failing to see any time that we've actually ever even seen like a macro reversal. I'm talking about a macro reversal, or even just like a major reversal on low, or on like closed bands. Essentially, you can see on Bitcoin's high at $20,000, extremely fucking wide. You can see the same thing over here in June 2019. You can see the same thing on multiple of these short-term reversals here, although not major reversals throughout the run from 2016 to 2017. And we can see similar things from the past prior, cycles right here, getting extremely wide for the 200 bands and getting extremely wide right on over here. We actually have a lovely indicator for this as well. It's called the BBWs, not the same kind that you find on XXX tubes, but if we do want to bring it up right here, you can actually find the actual width of the 200 bands, which is just, a more direct way of actually measuring that. And as you can see right here, we're pretty fucking low. Now, we're not like at generational lows or anything like that. And I'm sure someone's going to try to draw a trend line through here, and fair enough. I mean, you can kind of draw a regression. Yes, and that does seem to have some validity over time. You can see the same thing over here. You can see the same thing over here. You can see the same thing over here. And then we can kind of come back to this and see what it looks like on the actual chart itself. You see that actually a lot of these did kind of call major moves. Anyways, more importantly, on the other side, when you see that it gets very, very wide at the top right here, that is typically, going to be more demonstrative of major highs or major lows. So this was the same thing as what we saw, of course, in 2019 when Bitcoin hit the 3,100 low, right? And also when Bitcoin did the old coronavirus dump in March 2020 of last year. Both of these getting above, like well above that critical area right there, which is telling you that, hey, these are extremes. And the 200 bands being a volatility-based indicator as well, should play into the narrative what we just spoke about on, of course, implied and realized vol. So with all of that said, I do look at this as yet again, more or less, more likely to err to the upside than the downside. With that said, though, there's going to be two major sentiments coming into an event like this. It's going to be one side that's saying buy the rumor, sell the news. There's a lot of validity to that, and there's going to be another side saying, well, another side just always, always is bullish no matter what. But what I would say about that is hey, when it comes down to it, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend. And I don't really have a reason to be bearish on something like this, which is, well, whether you look at this from a pattern, whether you look at this from a trend perspective, whether you look at this from a momentum oscillator perspective or a moving average perspective, basically all things still pointed north right here long term. Now, long term does mean long term. And what personally I think is probably going to happen is you probably will see a pump into that event and then probably sell off like a little bit after it. But I think that this is really an overstated event to begin with. Coinbase direct listing is a good thing, and it does once again legitimize the space. Long term, I'd say it's definitely not a bad thing. For example, similar to like CME futures coming in 2017, yeah, it created that initial sell-off. Initial major market reversal, but eventually, Bitcoin did pull through, and that was a part of it. Bitcoin was essentially getting legitimized in the perspective of like traditional, the traditional structures. So with that in mind, I really think that the big event for Bitcoin that's probably on the horizon is the Bitcoin ETF. I've been saying this for a while now. I still think that a Bitcoin ETF later this year, maybe early next year, is very much within the cards and probably likely as well. I mean, we're seeing, of course, CME bring up mini futures as well for Bitcoin, which is going to make it more accessible to the average person rather than like the current structure, which requires you to have like 5x fucking equity just to put on one contract position, and one contract position is worth 5 Bitcoin as well. So it's like, how many people are trading $250,000 or more? Well, only professionals at that point. Very few retailers going to be doing that. I mean, most people want to be playing on BitMEX so that they can hold a $250,000 position with only like a tenth of that or a hundredth of that, right? Or yeah, more like hundredths of that, right? Because people are basically using leverage in a very interesting way, we'll say. But yeah, anyways, we just been talking about more or less bullshit right now. Let's talk about actual fucking technical analysis, although there was a little bit in there. Okay, so cool. Anyways, with that said right now, of course, we still got an ascending triangle going on over here. We still got higher highs. We still got higher lows, all more or less good within a consolidation narrative. And we also do have that same sort of interplay between the green 55 exponential average right here and the bottom side Toronto band, of which anytime that we have seen the green 55 cross the upside of the bottom side Toronto band, we have seen, well, very nice rallies. I'm talking about this one right here. Boom, nice move up from the current, from that last low test to the next sort of high before a little bit of reversal, about 17.25%. We've got the same one over here. This one jumps above the 20 simple, and then from signal given to next high, let's say, yeah, about 19.5% right there. Not bad. We had the same signal over here where Bitcoin jumped up from signal given to next major high was like way the fuck on over here. That's 100% move. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily relevant, but that next quick move to the top side Toronto band, very much so, and 34.5% right there as well. We have the same signal over here from signal given at around, let's see, let's take it right here where it's actually a day after That's going to be about 21,000 bucks, and just pretty much a straight fucking melt up from that point. 1,000, or sorry, not 1,000, but 100%. And then a few more iterations in 2019, both to the upside and the downside, actually. Some of them a little bit more lagging than others, but it does set in a pretty damn good bias there for the next sort of momentous drive to come. On top of that, we do see that the DMI ADX is really hinting at a DMI plus signal right here. You'll see that that DMI signal is going to be what's it called, accompanied by, of course, an ADX strengthening signal as well. Same shit that we've been saying and same shit that we've been seeing for the past, not even a few months, but like 6 to 7 months. Anytime that we have seen the DMI plus get dominant alongside the ADX strengthening as well, save for one rally, the most recent one in late March, has been pretty much a melt up move, continuation move, pretty much off all the same sort of moves that we saw spawned upon the 55 and the bottom side Krown band right here. But you can identify this one right here, boom, same thing. You can see this one right here, literally same fucking thing, tells you a little bit earlier, to be fair. This one over here, same thing, tells you a little bit earlier as well. This one over here, same thing, tells you a bit earlier. So all good in the hood, if you will. And we do see that the MACD is potentially going to be hinting at a bullish cross right here too. Not anything too crazy. I don't see that that's accompanied by any sort of divergences or whatnot. But if we go over to our regular charts over here, we can see that the TSI, I believe, is already turned. Let's see, is it turned up? It is turned up. Yes, indeed it is. Let me just pull it up right here. We did the confirmation yesterday, and we can see that now this is naturally going to line up with the bottom side support of what would be the medium-term time frame range for Bitcoin at 59,000 bucks. So with the reverse function of this, credit to Caretaker for making that, because that is fucking awesome. We can now kind of come up with, very obvious ranges, and guess what? That's pretty much right. Well, actually, it's the 10 symbol is a little bit lower than that, but still, that would be kind of like at your structural high right here anyways. If you were to just visualize a nice horizontal right around our last few highs, that would be 59,000 bucks. So I really do like that area as a good bias changer for the medium-term time frames. And when we're talking about a medium-term time frame, we're talking about, multiple thousands of dollars of move if that does get violated. So what that would imply is that if we do see a break below there, and this would be, let me just pull up a new a new chart here, just so that it's a little more, a little bit easier on the eyes. See that 59,000 bucks is right here. Very, very nice. That would be the last sort of high structure for this whole formation right here, going back to middle of March to where we're at right now. Then that would imply that if Bitcoin does start to close the daily total below it, then not only will we be breaking structure, but we'll also see momentum turn down as well. And that'd be a damn good signal that Bitcoin's going to come back down, a few thousand bucks lower and probably play out another test of the bottom side range. Let's see. Let me just get rid of everything right there and just kind of redraw this. Boom. And then what I want to show is this guy right here, getting Bitcoin's lows thus far, the higher lows, if you will. So it'd still, be more or less of a bullish, bullish dump, if you will, within the context of a general uptrend. But with that said, you can see that our current low, the current low side of what would be this proverbial trend line would be about 56,000 bucks. That's rather interesting now, isn't it? Because that's pretty much where Bitcoin's last higher low was anyways. So you can see that would be the next sort of big stop, and that actually would be your daily reversal if that does indeed get taken out to the downside. So even just coming back down and taking out this low, or especially closing on a lower low, then that would be indicative that Bitcoin's going to come back down, probably test the low 50,000 bucks. Do I think that's what's happening right here? No, I don't. But do I have conditions set for what happens if the main sort of ideas here are wrong? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole fucking game of trading. It's a game of statistics, game of probabilities. Always, when you have a trade idea, have a point of reference for how to know when you're wrong and what to do when you're wrong. Also, most importantly, you always see this in like communities that give out signals and whatnot. Inevitably those signals are going to be wrong, and then people get fucking mad. And it's like, look, there's no 100% way to do this. I've been around some of the best traders in the world. I used to be a professional market maker on New York Stock Exchange ARCA. I don't know a single fucking guy who won 100% of his trades, and I'm talking about like extremely smart people. Playing like backed by a shit ton of money too. Even them, for some of them, for the high frequency guys, some of them, they don't even give a fuck. They would be like, yeah, we win like 51% of our trades. Doesn't matter. We're doing it, like millions of times a day, just front running these fucking like half a cent positions. Fair enough. It's a completely different game, and we're getting way off topic right now. But my point is that, whenever you see something like that, man, it's usually a shyster, or at least I haven't met anyone like that who can actually fucking prove it. More importantly, you always see these guys who are like trying to fucking solve the market, right? And there's definitely some value in that, no doubt about that. But the problem is that you can be 99% right, and if you don't have a fucking plan for when things go wrong, that 1% when you're wrong, It's fucking bad, man. I mean, you see this a lot with like sports bettors too. Like they'll always talk about their win percentage, but they don't talk about how much money they actually made. Which, you know, I mean, it's a little bit strange to like talk about how much money you make. But if that's your business, then that's your fucking business, right? And it's like you can have like a fucking 70% win rate. Doesn't matter if that 30% is just an absolute red dildo to your equity curve. Anyways, again, getting way off topic here. What do we want to talk about right now? Okay, so we see a daily TSI turning up alongside Bitcoin essentially closing above topside structure on a daily. I would actually negate this right here, to be honest with you, because what is our real chart? Well, our real chart is a CME chart, and guess what? You know, that prior closing high was about $60,000, and that's pretty much what we see here as well, as we just identified on yesterday's close. Now, this is going to be accompanied by hidden bullish divergence. Obviously, we identified that yesterday, but this is now going to be extrapolated into the 2-day, into the 3-day, or actually the 3-day. The 3-day is still kind of playing out the prior one, and this just looks really fucking good right here. And of course, I believe the 5-day as well, which we identified last week, and then the weekly, which is going to be confirmed as soon as later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And in fact, because we've already seen CME closure for the weekly at 58,800 on Friday, I do think that it'd be relevant to say that that's, you know, already essentially there. You can see on CME chart right here, it's already confirmed. And CME chart is the one that I do hold with the highest regard, and signals on the CME chart are going to be more efficacious. Doesn't mean that they're always going to work. This means that they're more efficacious in comparison to spot markets here. Anyways, going back into it right now. So yes, hidden bullish divergence on all higher term timeframes for Bitcoin specifically. At your prior all-time high, basically closing on new all-time highs already. Usually that's going to be a continuation drive, and I still stick with my upside targets for continuation drive here. That is going to be a measured move up to the 3.618. Really good confluence right there off of a fib retracement that's been working incredibly well, as you can see throughout this whole fucking diabolical consolidation, especially over the last couple months here. But more importantly, you know, there would be areas of interest along the way. 62,500 would be a big one for a short-term move, and then of course into your deeper $60,000 territory, 67, 69. $9,000. So I'm still looking at that, and that is very much available to me, or that is very much like my main sort of idea here. As long as Bitcoin's above its prior low, as long as that condition is met, I really don't have any major reasons to be bearish here. I'm curious what the 2-day and 3-day looks like from this perspective. 2 days still up, 3 days still up. Actually, momentum just started turning up on the 3-day, plus DMI plus is also dominant here too with the 8x strengthening. Yeah, I quite like that. So, when it's all said and done, I do at least like what Bitcoin's doing right now. If it takes out this last low or closes on a lower low, so that'd be 55.5. Tick below, or just a daily closure below $56,000. That's at the point where I would start to really look at this as, okay, Bitcoin's likely to come back down to at the very least a low $50,000 region. But at the same time, until that happens, I am going to be more or less bullish here. We can go do a little bit of pi cycle bullshit over here, because that's obviously going to be the major thing of the day. You know, everyone's fucking talking about this. I sincerely regret ever even mentioning that this thing exists. Why do I say that? Because for the love of fucking God, this has become like the biggest meme within the market. And it's like, it's a meme on both sides. There's like one side who's like religiously looking at it for the next top, and there's another side that's religiously saying it can't work because it was made after the fact. It's like, okay, well, pretty much all indicators are made after the fact. Just so you know. It's like, what the fuck? You have to have a theory first based off of some evidence, and then you make then you make what you think is like some sort of relevant solution for it. Not the other way around. That would be even less related to what's going on to begin with, which just means that these people like probably haven't really thought these things through to begin with. But that's okay. That's not for us to criticize right now, or at least that's not what I want to focus on right now. What I want to focus on right now. Oh dear Lord. Okay, my voice is starting to turn into raspy lesbian, so we might have to get through this a little bit faster than what I really want to. What I would say is, hey, if you want the full analysis on this, regardless of raspy lesbian voice, check out like maybe the last couple videos in the long-term analysis playlists. It'll go over this. Anyways, what I want to point out right here is that if you are looking at this as infallible, which it is certainly not, but let's just kind of go in with the assumption that it is, just to kind of address both fucking ridiculous people on both sides, because it's just, as always, like somewhere in the goddamn middle, and people need fucking extremes, because you either need to be extremely bullish for the boo laws, or you need to be extremely bearish for the bear laws. Anyways, looking at it right here, you can see once this signal is actually given, like this is where the cross actually happens in the year 2013. mind you, we only have 3 iterations for this, by the way, as well. I don't look at that as like humongously, like structurally strong to like thesis to build off of. But even if you are, look at this right here. We did see the cross on the 5th of April, 2013. That is not the ultimate high in 2013. In fact, the ultimate high is on the 10th, literally about 5 days later. And not only that, but that price action goes up. It doesn't look like much right here, but that's a 100% move. I'll repeat that once again. That's a 100% fucking move, actually, from signal given to next major high. Very fucking interesting, right? All right, then we got this next one over here. This one actually gets it a little bit after the high. It's pretty much still on the high. I mean, this one has a closing price of 11.35. This one has a closing price of 11.58. Pretty fucking close, to be fair. That's probably the best iteration that I can see right there. And that's your 2014 reversal. Again, this is only 2 out of 3 now. So we really don't have too much history to be building off right here. And then we got this one in 2017, 2018, right? And this one gives you the high like 2 days before, technically speaking. So your low of that of that day, what we're going to measure from is like what, $15,000, and the high is about $20,000. That's a 31.25% move right there. So, we have a pretty wide range right there. I don't really think that any of that really it would certainly not be good enough for me to base any sort of trades off of. But for the people looking at this as as well, a catalyst for reversal. And by the way, this is BLX index, so it's obviously going to be way farther away right now. That would imply that, well, hey, this is, well, I mean, still, there's potential for more. By the same token, 1 out of 3 iterations, which again is not that fucking much. Like, look, what if I told you you had a fucking parachute and you were jumping out of a plane and it has a 33% chance to be completely wrong? Would you take that? Would you take that jumpsuit? Fuck no, you wouldn't. No, of course not, you wouldn't. Because what's also even more important about this, how are you going to manage risk on this indicator being wrong? You can't. You actually can't, because we've seen both. We've seen all 3 iterations have such wide variance in their results. It's irrelevant for like an actual trader's plan. It's fun to talk about on YouTube and on crypto Twitter and crypto Reddit because it looks sexy, it looks cool, and there's always these like meme indicators of the year. This one's definitely going to be it this year. The MBT signal was it in 2018, and in 2019, what was it? I forget what it was in 2019. Oh, and also 2018, you had the fucking falling wedge bullshit too, for all the boo laws out there. But fair enough, people probably hopefully know by now that wedges pretty much almost are like the worst patterns that even get a modicum of respect within the trading world, which I don't even understand to begin with. Most patterns are bullshit, to be honest with you, except for what I found in triangles. But here, and then you get people on both sides on that fucking discussion as well. It's like people say patterns can't work. They can't work. It's just fucking stupid triangles. Like, okay, well, what do you think of geometry? Have you heard of geometry, sir? Visualized mathematics, crazy shit, right? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Anyways, that's another topic for another time as well. And I'm getting way off topic right here. So yeah, looking at this right here, very likely to cross probably even tomorrow, probably in the next daily close, maybe in 2 days. So even if it does cross, have we seen further moves to the upside on top of it after that in the past? Yes, we have, as much as 100%, as low as like 30%. And in this case right here, what would 100% off of current price action be, or up from our current price action be? Well, a little bit of mental math can already tell you that. It's like $100,000, right? Let's see on the lower side, like 2018, that would be 30%. That's still around $80,000. So, with that in mind, I mean, that's just like not good enough for me to put any sort of amount of weight on, and why I've really been avoiding talking about this. What I think has a little bit more merit to it would be the Bitcoin log curve zones. Again, not something that I'd, give a whole hell of a lot of, credence to. But as it stands right now, Jesus Christ, man, why is TradingView being so slow? As you can see, it does have a decent history with kind of telling you where things are getting a little bit frothy, going all the way back to, the same 2011 dates. On top of that, we do see that we can put on the Bitcoin investor tool. Another somewhat interesting one, but this one I think is a lot less. Fuck this one too. Actually, no, I'm not gonna be looking at that. All right, so cool. Let's go back into it over here. I do want to start to make this video a little bit shorter, just because my voice is like actually starting to hurt once again. But on the short-term time frames right here, let's see if things are following through. 4 hours looking a little bit tired as far as TSI goes. 4-hour RSI getting kicked out of the bullish control zone for what it's worth right now too. I mean, I just look at this as a little bit of a healthy consolidation though, as long as it's holding above structure. In this case, our structure granted off of our charts from yesterday, about 59,300 to the downside. And what do you know? Bitcoin puts in a higher low on the 4-hour right around 59.3. That does imply that if Bitcoin starts to close a 2-hour or 4-hour delta below that region, I would look for a move probably back down another 1,000 or 1,500 bucks or so, a little bit below 58,000 bucks right there. Again, does that take out our prior higher daily higher low? No. So does it mean all that much to me on a medium term or high term time frame trade? No. Until this area gets taken out right here, I really do not even entertain like long term bearish thoughts. Short term, obviously, yes, there's going to be an ebb in the flow no matter fucking what. But long term, no, I can't get bear. I can't be calling for a fucking reversal before you even have a goddamn daily reversal. How about that? Anyways, 3-hour, what are we seeing right here? 3-hour HVP is actually already expanding quite a fair bit. 4-hour is not necessarily getting there just yet, but is in the process of expanding, just not anything too egregious. Same thing with the bi-hourly, same thing with the hourly. They're all kind of within the same sort of guys right here. What I'll also do is also look at low term time frame Stokes. I just want to see if these match up with each other. Yeah, 4 hours actually already coming down. 3-hour is already down. Bi-hourly is down. Hourly is down. So all on the same side right now, which is actually usually not a good recipe, in fact. So with that said, I probably would be deferring to CME right here because this one typically does get things right coming into the next week open. Anyways, looking at hourly right here, not giving us too much, technically down. What about bi-hourly? Down. What about 3-hour? Down. What about 4-hour? Looks a little bit tired there too, but technically still up right now. So I don't really see any. What we do see is actually more down than up right there. So short-term time frames more or less play out a range. If you're bullish, I'd be looking for that to once again test the downside of the range, probably somewhere down around 59 even. But again, this is not what I feel too confident on right now, or it's not that I don't feel confident on. I just wouldn't even be focusing on this too much right now, unless you're like a short-term time frame trader, at which point I'd just throw on the horizontals right here and say, yeah, that's my range, is take it or leave it. So fair enough. I remain, to kind of wrap up my thoughts, I remain long-term bullish as long as Bitcoin's above 56, and short-term time frame range would have a little bit of a dynamic shift below 59. Actually, it's 59.4. That would imply another almost $1,500 move to just below 58,000 bucks. And then what happens there would be the real test, because if Bitcoin does start to come further down and especially graze this last low, that's going to be the next like major warning signal for a potential reversal here. But I don't necessarily think that's what we're looking at, but that would be my conditions for it once again as well. Looking at the bi-weekly, this still looks like continuation of myself. This is still more or less good. I have no major issue with this at all. I'm sure that someone's going to say, but Krown, this is bearish. No, it's not fucking bearish divergence. For the love of goddamn God, please, for the love of fucking God, learn what a local high is and a local low is. I can't. I'm not going to explain this video, mostly because to do it like justice, you probably need like 20 to 30 minutes. And more importantly, my fucking voice is actually really starting to hurt now. So let's see. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin dominance and then wrap it. Don't think we'll have time to do anything else today, but I do want to see what this one's looking like. I imagine it's continuation, and it is continuation. We've now officially taken out the last macro low at 58.25, and I'll be looking for this one to have just a general nosedive probably over the next few weeks, somewhere down around to like the low 53-54% region, which is going to be massive for most altcoin versus Bitcoin pairings. So I suppose alt season continues. You're looking at this from a momentum perspective, which I don't think that works to begin with. You actually do have a dual hold or sell signal, to be fair. Anyways, yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up right there. No official wrap up today. Generally speaking, more or less a lot of the same things that we're looking at across the board here. So other than that, actually, I do want to check out one last thing. What is the top side of the log growth curves right here? Yeah, that'd be $100,000. So, if you did want to make an interesting but not so relevant analysis, what would you say? Well, you say something like this. Well, we did see, as far as the last pi cycle indicator, or not the last one, but actually the first one, the first ever, did give a 100% move after the actual cross. That actually would line up with where Bitcoin is at right now. Just below $6,000 would be a 2x, pretty much right around that just above $100,000 region. So there it is. There's your high, and that's gonna be the next high for the next fucking few years, and then Bitcoin's gonna come down, crash like 70%, go to like 30,000 or 40,000 bucks, and then reaccumulate and do the same thing all over again. No, just kidding. More importantly, at the end of the day, I am bullish on all time frames, even the short-term time frames. Although we do see plenty of things pointing to the downside right now. But until structure breaks in the short-term timeframes, I probably wouldn't put too much weight on it. And again, for full disclosure, I'm not trading these timeframes right here. I haven't been trading these timeframes for a while now, except for like a few obvious trades. Like I've maybe made like a handful of trades over the last 2 to 3 months in these lower-term timeframes. As it stands right now, though, I'm still looking at 59.4 as a little bit of a short-term downside pivot for a 2-hour or 4-hour closure. That would imply a move down another 1,500 or so bucks. I would be looking for a bounce there first and foremost. And then if the bounce does fail and we start to take out this last prior low at 55.5 or closing price below 56,000 bucks on a daily, then yeah, I'd start to look at this as extremely likely to come all the way down to the low, 52,000 dollar territory. So with all of that said, I will be more or less watching this one, and assuming that, everything is kind of about where it is right now leading into that event on Wednesday, I looking at this more or less with bullish eyes. So we'll obviously be covering that, and hopefully tomorrow we can do a nice little live stream. With that said, I want to wish you well, take care, and see you soon.